Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Also in boxing, you can find yourself getting called to the biggest fight of your life, and where we're going to find out if you pass the eye test. And that's what I'm talking about with David Benavidez, who used to be the El Rojo Bandera or something, right? Now the man is the Mexican Monster, because Mike Tyson called him the Mexican Monster. So it sounds good, so they're running with it. Now, I want to say this, right? Because I know people are going to sit here, man, and want to rip me for this. I'm going to tell you right now, is David Benavidez the next Jaron Ennis? Now, what I mean by that is Jaron Ennis passed the eye test. But Jaron Ennis, just like David Benavidez, the resume wasn't the strongest. Performances were very impressive, right? But when Jaron Ennis stepped up and got himself in position on the biggest stage he had been on, where he was supposed to come in there and just really convince the world that he was the next big thing. Although he won the fight, many of us would say he failed the test. Now, for those of you who are saying, oh, well, he had somebody running the whole night, it's not his fault. Listen. We're not going to make excuses here. We don't alibi. You know what I'm saying? Got to be some accountability, right? And we don't make excuses. He got to look at himself and say, you know what? There's some things I could have done better. But in my opinion, I honestly felt Jaron Ennis should have known how to cut off the ring a little bit better than what he did. Now, that being said, Jaron Ennis won the fight. To his credit, the guy Chikhadzian, he said once Jaron Ennis hit him, he was like, whoa. He knew that he could hurt him. So he wasn't going to stand there and go toe-to-toe. He wasn't going to sit there and hold his ground to try to prove a point. He knew he could be hurt. So now, when we talk about David Benavidez, and you say, why are you making that comparison? Because I think David Benavidez could be in a similar position. Now, what he is he's a pressure stalker. You know what I'm saying? A vicious pressure fighter, a vicious stalker when he's inside that ring. However, David Benavidez, like Jaron Ennis, he hasn't really, to his own admittance, right? Even David Benavidez said that his resume isn't the strongest, and he knows his resume isn't the strongest, and I think that's a good quality. But the bottom line is when he gets in there with a guy like Caleb Plant's not Chikhadzian. Caleb Plant can crack. And I'm not just going off of his last fight. You look at his I think 10 fights before that, he only stopped 3 of his opponents. But the bottom line is Caleb Plant has enough. He has more pop than what Boots' last opponent had. And what I'm getting at for David Benavidez, he's going to have to figure out a way to recognize Plant's movements. Plant, the direction he's going to go, when he's going to throw. He got to figure out the patterns. He's going to have to recognize and make proper reads in there. When Plant is coming in, if Plant is going to hang in there too long. Because, see, everybody has a pattern. They have habits. And hopefully they sat there and they worked on that and they recognize what some of the habits are and the patterns are in Caleb Plant, especially when Caleb Plant gets into the ring. But if he hasn't done that, I just think Caleb Plant's going to just box circles around him. And when I say box circles, I don't mean, going to like Erislan de Lara. Nah. I mean, Caleb Plant, when he lets his hands go, there are moments where he will stand and fire off a vicious combination, and then he'll get out of there. But there are times where he will hold his ground, and he'll see exactly what the opponent is bringing to the table. Now, I'm going to tell you this. If David Benavidez doesn't get Caleb Plant's respect early, or Conversely, if Caleb Plant doesn't get David Benavidez respect early, could be a bit of a problem. But the thing here is to see, what can David Benavidez really do? Right? Gonna have to catch some shots, try to counter. He throws good combinations. He actually uses great angles. And he recognizes, he knows his distance pretty good. David Benavidez doesn't do a whole lot of reaching. He doesn't really get too careless, you know what I'm saying? He has good qualities, but the problem is this. Caleb Plant, I think, he has more experience. He's fought, he fought Canelo, but Uzcategui, and they both fought Darrell, and you can say Darrell was already a bit diminished from what David Benavidez did to him, plus Darrell was like 38. But what I'm getting at is Caleb Plant has had his back against the wall. He's taken a loss. He's learned from that. He has a really good team. He added another coach to his team in addition to his father, and he got Victor Conte over there, just like David Benavidez has Heredia. So I don't think this is going to be a matter of David Benavidez stalking Caleb Plant and being able to knock him out. Now, when you look at David Benavidez, 26 wins, 23 of those wins are by KO. No losses, right? But 88% KO ratio. But this is the thing that concerns me with El Bandera Rojo, right? Or now call him the Mexican Monster. He stands 6'2", so he's got some height on him. But this is the thing that gets me, and I'm gonna share this with you. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you. All right. When you come here and you look, for Caleb Plant, for David Benavidez, and when he started boxing. In August in 2013. His first his first 7 fights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. His first 7 fights were in Mexico. Okay? Now, I'm going to go through the records of the fighters that he fought from when he first started to now. And you're going to understand why I'm a little bit concerned. So, he had his debut. So, his second opponent, no wins, 5 losses. Third opponent, 1 win, 1 loss. Fourth opponent, just says debut. The fifth opponent, no wins, 1 loss. Sixth opponent, debut. So, those first couple was just for David Benavidez to get his experience, because remember he didn't have an amateur career, so David Benavidez was learning on the job. Gets beyond that guy, then he starts to get into guys who are 1-0, then 1-6, 23 wins, 20 losses, 9 wins, 7 losses, 0 wins, 11 losses. Now this is 2 years into the fight game now. Now going into the 3rd year, he's fighting guys 10-1, 16-2. Right? Now he's fighting in the United States. But as you progress through, you see some of the records are a lot better. But when you start looking at some of these names, for me, it probably wasn't until we look at Ronald Gavril where I started to recognize the names. You know what I'm saying? And Benavidez fought him twice, 2017 and 2018. He won by split decision in 2017 and unanimous decision 2018. Then he got into with Jaron Love, who was 24-2, or probably won at the time. Took his second loss against Benavidez, and Benavidez just got him out in the 2nd round. Too much power. Then Anthony Darrell, the referee stopped the fight in the 9th round. That was in 2019. Then in 2020, he fought Romer Alexis Angulo, 26-1. Stopped him in the 10th round. Then Ronald Ellis stopped him in the 11th. Then he got into with Kyron Davis, stopped him in the 7th. David Lemieux, who I thought Lemieux was going to be able to, show glimpses of the old Lemieux with the big hook. But David Benavidez was able to stop him in the 3rd round. And David Lemieux was 43-3 at the time. So when you look at those names, they don't really jump out at you. You know who David Lemieux is. We're kind of familiar with Anthony Darrell, Jaron Love. But really, there's no Canelo Alvarez on here. There's no Uzcategui on here, right? But then you look at Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant is not the Lemieux right now. The Lemieux 10 years ago was a monster. This Lemieux is not the same. Caleb Plant's not Kyron Davis. You know what I'm saying? Caleb Plant's not Ronald Ellis. He's not Anthony Darrell. So what I'm saying is, David Benavidez is really in tough. For people to think that he's just going to come in there and walk through Caleb Plant, how? we just went over his resume. Don't get me wrong. Benavidez, I can understand how he's the favorite to win. I understand. But when you really sit back and take a look at it, we got to be real here about this. This is not an easy fight for Benavidez. Now, we just sat here and talked about David Benavidez. Let me show you something here. Okay? If David Benavidez was to win, right? Because you look at where he's ranked by the ring. They got him ranked number 1, Plant number 2. But once you come down and you start understanding what's going on here with the rack and stack of the sanctioning bodies, you see here for the WBC, I'm going to go ahead and expand this a little bit for you, right? Because that's what we're talking about. You see here for the WBC, it's Canelo, Benavidez right underneath him with an interim championship. Benavidez and Plant are fighting. If Benavidez beats Plant, Benavidez he will be the mandatory to Canelo. But this is the problem. And this is what y'all need to understand. There's no guarantee Canelo's going to fight Benavidez. Right now, we know Canelo is fighting, let's see, which one of these, right? He's fighting Ryder. Okay? Well, that's in another weight division. But he's fighting Ryder right here. Here he goes. He's fighting Ryder for the WBO. Well, he's the mandatory, so he's fighting for all the marbles. But he's fighting Ryder. After he fights Ryder, Canelo's going up to 175 to try to get at Bivol. So what's going to happen with Benavidez is he's going to have to wait till 2024. So what you're going to see happen is Benavidez, although he's going to be the mandatory, he's going to have to take another fight, maybe 2. You could see Benavidez facing a guy like Billy, Andre Akhmedov. You can see Benavidez facing one of those guys. Now it could be it could be Charlo, just depending on what Charlo decides to do, if he wants to bubble up and wait. But what I'm getting at is David Benavidez is going to be put in a position where he's going to end up having to fight somebody, because he's not going to wait around to 2024 for no damn Canelo. And when you look at what's out there as far as him and that position he has in the WBC, he's going to have to fight somebody from that WBC column. So the next biggest name outside of Plant really is, Demetrius Andrade. And matter of fact, if you look at where Demetrius Andrade is, let me do this right here for you so you can see. You can see Andrade is he's the number 1 for the WBO. Andrade is the number 5 for the WBC, and he's the number 2 for the WBA. So bottom line is, I think that's a good fight, but I just think Benavidez is in over his head a little bit. I really do. But I think they got a good game plan. And again, I understand why he's a favorite to win. I mean, when you talk about a guy who's sitting there, you know what I mean, with 88% KO ratio, and he can fight. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I just think his resume shouldn't be overlooked. Now let's look at Caleb Plant. It's him right here. Let's look at Caleb Plant and see what Caleb Plant's looking like. Because I just think it's important to understand these guys and their resumes, man. And I don't think people are really understanding that. Plant, 22 wins, 13 KOs. 1 loss by Canelo. Almost a 60% KO ratio. He's 6'1". I didn't think he was that tall, man. But anyway, they're both pretty damn tall. They're about the same height. Reach is pretty comparable too. But he's 30 years old. But when you come down and you take a look at Plant, right? Let's just look at the matches that Plant has had. Let's just go down the list. Benavidez is his next fight. He had Durrell, Canelo, right? He had Caleb Trout, Feigenbutz, Mike Lee, Uls Katagi. No one expected him to beat Uls Katagi, but he did. Luna Hernandez, then a few other names on here. Carlos Galvin. But what I'm getting at is when you look, let's just go back to U's category. From U's category in 2019, Mike Lee, Fegenbutz, Trout, Alvarez, Terrell, Caleb Plant's competition has gotten better and better and better. And to me, when you take all that into consideration, I mean, you got to think when he comes into the ring with David Benavidez, he's not going to make the mistakes he made like he did when he fought Canelo Alvarez. And I think a lot of people are counting on Benavidez being able to do even more damage to Caleb Plant because Benavidez is younger, bigger, and supposedly stronger than Canelo. But the thing is, he's not getting the Caleb Plant that Canelo got. All right? Simple. He's not getting that guy. But that being said, we're going to find out. Can the aggressive stalker catch up to the master boxer puncher? And it's a 22-foot ring, so it's going to be easier said than done. That's not such an easy task to track down fancy feet Caleb Plant in a 22-foot ring. And I think when Caleb Plant's going to shock him, because there are going to be moments where he stands and holds his ground. And I think that's going to throw Benavidez off because all he's going to do is roll out of there and then go back to boxing. And I can see Benavidez getting frustrated. But what I will tell you is at some point in that fight, we're going to see who has the best stamina. Because the stamina, to me, is the difference in this fight. Stamina and those strength and nutrition coaches they have, Heredia and Conti. I think we need to really be paying attention to that. So I'm going to tell you, I'm looking forward to the weigh-in. I want to see what shape. Plant's always in shape. I want to see how ripped, how shredded Benavidez is. Because I'm telling y'all right now, that man coming there looking like Juan Manuel Marquez from Manny Pacquiao, from the Pacquiao 4 fight, where he was looking straight, Latin lover, bodybuilder, coconut oil, speedo down by the beach. Let me tell you, if his body is ripped like that, streamlined physique, I'm gonna put a hairy eyeball on Benavidez. That's all I'm gonna say. But Caleb Plant deserves to have a hairy eyeball on him too. I mean, this man all of a sudden knocking people out. But that being said, I think this is gonna be one of the more intense, entertaining fights we've seen in a while. And I literally, no kidding, think both of these guys are gonna be fighting for their lives, honestly. Because I think when Benavidez comes out to Plant, when he gets an opportunity to let his hands go, he's going to be looking to just, like I said, break the windows out the building. You know what I'm saying? If you understand, like, a 20-story building, 50-story building, there's windows on every level. And that's what I mean by him breaking the windows out the building. He's going to start off at the lower level, the midsection, come all the way up top to the head. Anywhere in between, he's hitting, he's punching, he's trying to break it. And for Caleb Plant, he's going to take his time and break out the windows too. Maybe a jab here, 1-2 here, check hook here, counter hook here, combination here. But he's going to be doing the same thing. Two different styles, both of them with the intentions on breaking out windows. Top to the bottom, bottom to the top. That being said, looking forward to the fight. Benavidez passes the eye test. Is he another Jaron Ennis? I guess we're going to find out. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. You know what I'm in.